Hi, it's so good to see you. I miss you guys a lot. Today I want to continue our discussion about timbre. So yesterday we talked about how timbre is the way instruments sound different from each other. We also called it tone color, and that's really important for our discussion today. So to illustrate this, I want you to think of your favorite instrument. I want you to think about the way it sounds, what makes it sound special from other instruments. And I want you to think about if it were a color, what color would it be? So for instance, my favorite instrument is the French horn. It has a very warm, mellow sound. So I would like to think of it kind of as like a golden yellow color, because it has that warm sound like you feel when you go outside in the sun. And it's very mellow, and so it's very like calming, a calming mellow yellow. Not really bright, not exciting, but a calming, deep yellow. So now you, thinking about your instrument and its color, go ahead and just say it out loud. Tell it to me. That was awesome. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take the different colors of our instruments and we're going to paint them into one giant picture. And to do that, we're going to use the book, The Phantom Tollbooth by Norton Juster. It's one of my favorite books of all time. And there's this really beautiful passage in it that if we were in class together, I would read it to you. But since we're not, I'm going to read it to you across this video. The sun was dropping slowly from sight, and stripes of purple and orange and crimson and gold piled themselves on top of the distant hills. The last shafts of light waited patiently for a flight of wrens to find their way home, and a group of anxious stars had already taken their places. "Here we are!" cried Alec, and with a sweep of his arm he pointed towards an enormous symphony orchestra. "Isn't it a grand sight?" There were at least 1,000 musicians ranged in a great arc before them. To the left and right were the violins and cellos, whose bows moved in great waves, and behind them, in numberless profusion, the piccolos, flutes, clarinets, oboes, bassoons, horns, trumpets, trombones, and tubas were all playing at once. At the very rear, so far away that they could hardly be seen, were the percussion instruments, and lastly, in a long line up one side of a steep slope, were the solemn bass fiddles. On a high podium in front stood the conductor, a tall, gaunt man with dark, deep-set eyes and a thin mouth placed carelessly between his long pointed nose and his long pointed chin. He used no baton, but conducted with large, sweeping movements which seemed to start at his toes and work slowly up through his body and along his slender arms and end finally at the tips of his graceful fingers. "I don't hear any music," said Milo. "That's right," said Alec. "You don't listen to this concert, you watch it. Now pay attention." As the conductor waved his arms, he molded the air like handfuls of soft clay, and the musicians carefully followed his every direction. "What are they playing?" asked Tock, looking up inquisitively at Alec. "The sunset, of course. They play it every evening about this time." "They do?" said Milo quizzically. "Naturally," said Alec. "And they also play morning, noon, and night, when of course it's morning, noon, or night. Why, there wouldn't be any color in the world unless they played it. Each instrument plays a different one," he explained. "And depending, of course, on what season it is and how the weather's to be, the conductor chooses his score and directs the day. But watch, the sun has almost set, and in a moment you can ask Chroma himself." The last colors slowly faded from the western sky, and as they did, one by one, the instruments stopped, until only the bass fiddles in their somber, slow movement were left to play the night, and a single set of silver bells brightened the constellations. The conductor let his arms fall limply at his sides and stood quite still as darkness claimed the forest. "That was a very beautiful sunset," said Milo, walking to the podium. It should be, was the reply. We've been practicing since the world began. And so I hope that helps you understand a little more about tone color. How it's all the colors of the instruments playing together that make the beautiful sounds that we hear. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.